horse, Jefferson Davis. They lifted him up and they put him in the wherever. Big day.
Oh my gosh.
Big night.
Okay. Okay.
Eddie, I'll get behind you so I don't block them, all right? We need this chair.
Okay.
I think Steve has to. Steve, you want this chair?
Yeah.
No, you just because we have our speakers, so you can answer the questions. But you're a speaker, okay?
You could sit in it first if you're occupant of the chair.
Is Mr. Nadler here?
Nadler and Cummins are not here yet.
Huh?
Is Elijah coming?
Elijah, Nadler, Cummings, Green, Perlmutter, Lou, Kildee, Capture, Barbara Lee, and Pramila. If the person indicated is not here, we'll go on to the next one. But we did say 12:30. What time is it? We don't want to start before them. It is 20? It's 30?
We do everything on time.
All right, I'll get started. Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to thank you for joining me. Is this on? Can you hear me out there? Oh. Okay, let's see. I don't think these are on. Are they? Is it on? Okay. Thank you for joining me. Last week on December 13th, 2017, I organized a special order on the House floor in which I addressed the growing attempts by right-wing media, some Republican members of Congress, and President Donald Trump himself to discredit and undermine the work of Special Counsel Robert Mueller. On the floor, I announced that I had drafted a letter denouncing those efforts and supporting Special Counsel Mueller's investigation. Today, I am pleased to announce that 171 Democratic members of Congress have joined me and signed a letter in support of Mr. Mueller and his investigation. We have decided we will not stand by and allow Fox News and right-wing Republicans to defy the rule of law and create their own rules to interfere with a legitimate investigation under the Constitution of the United States. We will be vigorously working to deny the brazen attempts to destroy Special Counsel Robert Mueller and his investigation. We will be sending the letter to the Deputy Attorney General of the United States, Rod J. Rosenstein. As you know, Special Counsel Mueller was appointed by Mr. Rosenstein on May 17, 2017, to lead an investigation into important matters arising out of the 2016 elections, including, quote, any links and/or coordination between the Russian government and individuals associated with the campaign of President Donald Trump, quote unquote. However, despite Mr. Mueller's record of integrity established through his previous service as the FBI director during 2 presidential administrations, and despite the bipartisan respect and praise Robert Mueller earned from members of Congress during his confirmation and service as FBI director in 2001 and 2011, and despite the clear progress that Special Counsel Mueller is making in his current investigation, there is an organized effort by Republicans in concert with Fox News to spin a false narrative and conjure up outrageous scenarios to accuse Special Counsel Mueller of being biased. The unusual efforts that are being put forth by Trump, Republican members of Congress, and Fox News are more than outrageous. They are unconscionable, destructive, and constitutionally unsound. What is the president afraid of? If he is not guilty of collusion or money laundering, if he's not guilty of making deals with oligarchs to lift the sanctions so that Russia can proceed with projects to make money for him and his allies, what is he so worried about? Shouldn't he support the investigation proceeding so that his name can be cleared? We are here today on behalf of at least 171 members of Congress who believe Special Counsel Mueller is doing a great job. We're here today on behalf of at least 171 members of Congress who believe Mr. Mueller's investigation should and must continue and must not be obstructed. To quote our letter to Deputy Attorney General Rosenstein, I quote, "We write to express our support for the work of Special Counsel Robert S. Mueller III and to urge you to ensure that he be allowed to continue his investigation unfettered by political influence or threats to his authority, to its natural and appropriate conclusion based on the law, the facts, and the evidence." And with that, I'm going to begin to call on the members who will be speaking here today. Is Representative Jerrold Nadler here? Is Representative Elijah Cummings here? Is Representative Al Green here?
I believe so.
Then you are next.
I would like to thank Ranking Member Waters for all of her energy and effort that she's put into this endeavor. And I will be terse and laconic because there are many persons to speak, and there's much to be said. Having been a litigator and judge of a small claims justice court, I understand that the people who serve are not perfect servants. They are hopefully good public servants. Mr. Mueller is a good public servant. He's not perfect because he's a Republican. My guess is that there are many who might contend that his having a deep, abiding affinity for the Republican Party would in some way disqualify him to evaluate a Republican president. I am not one of them. I believe that he has demonstrated through his words, deeds, and actions that he is capable, competent, and qualified. And as a result, I think he should continue this investigation. I think that if the president has nothing to hide, he will insist that Mr. Mueller continue the investigation. And as for Fox News, my position is simply this: they are consistently on the wrong side of history. This is further evidence.
Thank you. Next, we'll have Mr. Perlmutter.
Thanks. We've had 2 guilty pleas, 2 indictments, and all of a sudden the Republicans in this building have their hair on fire, wanting to close down, shut down the investigation that is ongoing. And, panic mode has set in for them. So the real question is, what are they afraid of? What is it that's being hidden? What's being covered up here? I mean, at the end of the day, this is about detective work. And the detectives ought to be able to finish their job, wherever it leads. And, it's like with the tax returns, with the president's tax returns. He has yet to release his tax returns. What's he hiding? What is it? We just passed this giant tax bill that supposedly benefits real estate developers. Be curious what's in that. The real question here, what are they afraid of? What is it that they're hiding? And just let the detectives do their job. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Mr. Ted Lieu.
Thank you. I'm a former prosecutor, and I just have to say their attempts by the president's allies and some of those in Congress to smear law enforcement just because they don't like where the investigation might be heading is disgraceful. Yes. It's also factually false. So let's just talk about this investigation, how it's set up. It is overseen by Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein. He is a Republican, appointed twice by Republican presidents. Special Counsel Robert Mueller works for him. He is a Republican. FBI Director Christopher Wray is also part of the leadership of this investigation. He is a Republican who, by the way, has donated over $39,000 exclusively to Republicans. So this is a law enforcement investigation headed by 3 Republicans, and I trust them. I trust that they will do the right thing, and I ask Republicans to trust the Republican leadership of this law enforcement investigation to do the right thing. And let me conclude by saying and quoting one of my favorite press secretaries, Sarah Huckabee Sanders: when you're attacking FBI agents because you're under investigation, you're losing.
Thank you. Next, we will have Mr. Dan Kildee.
Thank you, Congressman Waters. Look, this is a really important moment for this country. We are a country founded on the rule of law. We ought to adhere to that principle. And we need to ask ourselves, what is President Trump so afraid of? Why is he petrified that the American people could learn the truth? This is a moment of truth that will determine whether or not the American people will see and hear the truth. Why are they so afraid? It is important in a nation founded on the rule of law that we allow the process to complete itself, allow the facts to come to light. And if there's nothing there, no one has anything to fear. But the investigation is underway, and as now facts are beginning to come to light, why is the president afraid of the facts and the truth? Why are Republicans in Congress afraid of the truth? What are they so afraid of? Let's let the American people be the judge based on knowledge and facts, and let's let Mr. Mueller complete his work.
Representative Marcy Kaptur.
Thank you, Congresswoman Waters, for bringing us together. I'm so proud to stand with my colleagues at this historic time in our nation's history. We stand here today seeking truth and justice. Just last week, Republicans on the Judiciary Committee attempted to kick the legs out from under Special Counsel Robert Mueller's investigation into Russian interference in our elections last year. I say with my colleagues, what are they afraid of? And why don't they focus on the big bear in the room, Russia? During that hearing, Republicans went so far as to demand that Congress disband Special Counsel Mueller's investigation. Why do they focus on that, and why are they so dismissive of Russia? Thomas Paine said, in absolute governments, the king is law. In free countries, the law ought to be king, and there ought to be no other. Yes, we are here seeking truth and justice. Congress must protect the integrity of our justice system and follow the facts, and the Mueller investigation does just that. The FBI's motto is fidelity, bravery, and integrity. And Mr. Mueller's life embodies that motto. Unlike President Trump, he served in combat in Vietnam as a Marine. He took no deferments. In fact, he became a decorated officer, receiving the Bronze Star, Purple Heart, 2 Navy Commendation Medals, and the Vietnamese Cross of Gallantry. After the Vietnam War, Special Counsel Mueller came home, and he devoted his legal career to continue to fight for America, for justice, and for truth. And yes, he has given his life to our country. He served as Assistant U.S. Attorney for the Criminal Division and then U.S. Attorney, and prosecuted criminals and enemies of freedom, ranging from Panama's former dictator Manuel Noriega to the New York crime boss John Gotti. Yes, he has prosecuted financial fraud, public corruption, narcotics, conspiracies, and money laundering, including by Russia and its minions. A week before 9/11, President George Bush swore him in as director of the FBI, and he rose to that occasion of helping our nation steady itself after 9/11 as he helped usher the FBI through awesome challenges of a new century and our fight against terrorism. After finishing a distinguished 10-year term as FBI director, President Obama requested he stay on to lead the Bureau for 2 more years. Our republic depends on safeguarding liberty through genuine, free, and fair elections, free of Russian predators. Special counsel Robert Mueller has devoted his life to defending and protecting our republic against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and America now needs his devotion and brave integrity more than ever. We as Congress have a sworn duty to unequivocally confirm the truth behind the extent of Russian interference in our election. And with my colleagues, I ask, so what are the Republicans afraid of?
Thank you. Thank you. Representative Barbara Lee.
Thank you very much. I want to thank you, Congresswoman Maxine Waters, for your unwavering and brilliant leadership in your efforts to protect our democracy and for calling us together today. I'm proud to stand here with Congresswoman Waters and my colleagues to really sound the alarm on the urgent need to protect the Mueller investigation. Special counsel Robert Mueller, which has been said earlier, is a Republican. He was appointed to investigate the ties between President Trump's campaign and Russian officials. Mr. Mueller's credentials are unassailable. He is the former director of the FBI, who was originally appointed, yes, by a Republican president twice, and unanimously confirmed by the Senate. As we say in our letter, Mr. Mueller's appointment was appropriate and it was necessary. He simply must be allowed to complete his investigation without the threat of removal. President Trump and Republicans have taken steps to impugn the integrity, or try to impugn the integrity, of Robert Mueller and to undermine his investigation. And it's obvious that they want Mr. Mueller fired and this investigation to go away. But we are here to say, not on our watch. Not only do we recognize that the firing of Special Counsel Mueller would trigger a constitutional crisis, the likes of which we haven't seen since Watergate, the public understands that very clearly also. This step would be dangerous, it would be wrong, and we will not stand for it. So I'm proud to stand with my colleagues today to send a very clear message to Republicans and to the President that the Mueller investigation is here to stay. If there's nothing to hide, what are Republicans and what is President Trump afraid of? The future of our democracy depends on it. Thank you again.
Thank you. Our newly ranking member of the Judiciary Committee, Jerrold Nadler.
Well, thank you very much. The special counsel and his job is vital, and this investigation must continue unimpeded. Republican attempts, seemingly at the behest of the White House, to discredit, interfere, and undermine Robert Mueller and his team must be called out and exposed as a systematic attempt to provide cover for the president as the walls close in on him and on his family and his inner circle. The special counsel serves a very specific purpose, one of critical importance to our democracy and the rule of law, and that is to investigate if there are crimes committed within or related to the Trump campaign or by the Trump White House with regard to Russia's interference in our election and possible obstruction of justice. Because Republicans refuse to conduct honest and meaningful oversight of the administration or investigate matters under our jurisdiction related to possible crimes committed, areas of potential misconduct, and issues of national security that may be implicated, including the integrity of our elections, Republican attacks on the special counsel and his investigation, as well as on the reputation of the Department of Justice and the FBI, pose a very serious danger to our democratic institutions. The attempt to discredit the special prosecutor, the special counsel actually, and the FBI and the Department of Justice are attacks on American law enforcement and on the attempt to ensure the integrity of our elections. That is why it falls to us to raise the alarm and hold Republicans in Congress and the administration accountable. I want to thank Maxine Waters for organizing this letter of 171 members, demonstrating the strong stance of our caucus to stand up to this corrosion of our democratic principles.
Thank you very much. Congresswoman Jackie Spear.
I want to thank Congresswoman Waters for raising a high alert for all of us to speak up on what could very well be a national travesty. There is a systematic character assassination underway of the special counsel, Robert Mueller. It is being orchestrated by Fox News, the White House, and Republicans in both bodies. This is the same special counsel that the Republicans applauded when he was selected. It's the same special counsel who Republicans in the Senate raced to introduce legislation to protect him. The only difference is that since he was selected, there have been 2 indictments and 2 guilty pleas of persons close to the Trump campaign or close to the Trump administration. Now, when you think about it, we have a president right now who has attacked the judiciary, has attacked the CIA, has attacked the FBI, and who has attacked the media. We're here to say the rule of law is very critical to us being able to continue as a democracy in this country. Mueller's investigation is critical to preserving our national security and our American values. Now is the time to fight for what is right. So I stand as a Democrat with Republican Special Counsel Mueller to say, I am going to fight for this country. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We're going to discontinue the statements at this point and take questions from you. And these questions can be answered by any person on stage. If you'd like to direct them to someone, or when the member decides to answer the question, they will step up to the microphone, introduce themselves, and answer the question. Yes, sir.
So we don't know, my name is Chris McGarrian from the LA Times. We don't know what's going to happen next with the special counsel investigation. How would you feel if the investigation ended with no more criminal charges and with no allegations of wrongdoing against the president?
Would you like to take that? Okay.
I start off with, first of all, thanking Congresswoman Maxine Waters for bringing us together, and I also then say, what is there to fear? We want the investigation to continue until its final statement is made. This is Republicans looking for a smoking gun when there's only smoke. These are Republicans trying to create a crime scene when there's no crime. And that means that Fox News has called this, the FBI, a crime family. We know that Hannity of Fox News has said that Mr. Mueller is a disgrace to the American justice system. And Fox News has also said that this is a coup on America. With that being said, we need to be standing, as Senator Warner said, in and at the red line, so that there is an atmosphere for Special Counsel Mueller to continue his investigation. I would argue that he is not ready to finish the investigation. I am not going to politically suggest that he continue an investigation that he's finished. But we have no sign that he is finished with the investigation. We only have the accusations and the atmosphere being created for the president to pardon and or fire not only Director Mueller, but leadership at the FBI. And so, to your question, I think it is simply a point. We are getting in front of what we believe is a targeted, mean-spirited, factless effort to fire Director Mueller, to undermine and fire leadership in the FBI, and certainly to undermine the FBI. I think it's a shame. It is a constitutional crisis if they think they're ever going to do that. And I believe the American people will join the 171 and stand for no more from this Republican administration. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
FBI Deputy Director Cade is meeting today with members of your committee and with the Oversight Committee. Can you give us a little bit of a sense of how that's going, how you think he's being, what kind of questions the Republicans are asking and the Democrats are asking, and your overall sense of this investigation that they announced a couple months ago?
Well, I just came from that hearing or interview or whatever you want to call it, and it is by order of the chairman of the Judiciary and Oversight Committees, quote, confidential, unquote, which means I cannot answer anything about what was being asked or answered in that committee. I think it's fair to say that the questions that the Republicans are asking would not surprise you, or the direction, I should say, would not surprise you. Beyond that, I can't say anything. I do want to add one thing, though, and that is, when you take a look at the investigation and the allegations, from a standing start where everybody, the Republicans, praised Mueller as the wonderful guy and the proper person to do this, to now, what has he said? Nothing. There have been no leaks from this investigation. All we know about this investigation is that they indicted 2 people, that they got guilty pleas from 2 people, and that they haven't finished. That's all we know. Based on that, there are all kinds of aspersions and allegations being made out of bias. This FBI agent who worked on the investigation but was taken off it quickly, wrote emails to his girlfriend that didn't like Trump. That person once contributed to Democrats or whatever. I would point out that it would be highly improper, I believe illegal, but I'm not sure of that, but certainly highly improper, if the FBI were to vet which FBI agents or who works on an investigation based on their personal political opinions. Americans, even if they work for the police agencies, are permitted their personal political opinions. If you want to say there's something wrong with the investigation, you have to show not that some of the people working on it may be sympathetic to Democrats or sympathetic to Republicans. That's irrelevant. What you have to show is that in some way the investigation has been biased in doing this or saying that. And no such allegations have been made. All of this has been, well, you've got some employee, some FBI agent who we think is a Democrat or doesn't like the president, all of which may or may not be true, but is irrelevant, and it would be highly improper for the FBI to have asked before they put someone on the investigation, what do you think of the president? Are you a Democrat? Are you a Republican?
Thank you very much. I saw some hands on this side. Yes, sir.
Thank you. For Congressman Green, or a handful of you, namely you, sir, you've already brought up 2 articles of impeachment against the president. You did earn 58 votes on that in total. You told me personally you were surprised to see the number reach that high. If the president were to take the drastic step of firing Bob Mueller, would you be prepared as a caucus to bring forward articles of impeachment once again, perhaps following the new year, if that were to happen?
A minor correction. What I said was we received 57 more votes than many people thought we would. I am on record, so what I will say is nothing new. I have always thought that the president interfered with an investigation in an improper way in contravention of Article 2, Section 4 of the Constitution. I stand where I have stood.
Thank you. Any more questions? Any more statements?
Just one a brief comment. And I would like to address this specifically to my Republican colleagues. Take care to follow the oath of office that you swore. Take care to protect the Constitution that you swore to. This is really a moment, and this goes to the question as to what happens if, in fact, this investigation is completed. No matter what the facts are, we're satisfied if the investigation is complete, no matter what the conclusion is. But what would be a travesty is that for partisan purposes, because of partisan loyalty to a person, if you watched in the last 24 hours, looked as if he was their dear leader, they would stop or attempt to stop an investigation that is incomplete. Imagine what sort of nation would this be? So I know there are some on the other side who will do anything to support this president, but I believe there are responsible members in the Republican conference whose voices have been silent on this question, who will be asked at one point in American history whether or not they stayed silent when many of their own colleagues attempted and hopefully failed, but attempted to stop an ongoing investigation that has already produced indictments and convictions have been entered before that investigation is complete. If we are a country that adheres to the principle of the rule of law, they will not be silent on that question, and they need to speak up as well.
Thanks, Dan. Yeah, Congressman Sarbanes from Maryland. First off, I just want to say that Rod Rosenstein served in Maryland as a U.S. attorney under 2 presidents. He's a straight arrow. His selection of Bob Mueller was done in an independent and fair-minded way. And Bob Mueller is a straight arrow as well. And he ought to be allowed to complete the job. The only thing that has changed from the beginning, as has been pointed out, when people were praising Bob Mueller, Republicans were praising Bob Mueller, is that the investigation has begun to turn things up. So it's as though the investigation was okay with the Republicans until it started to find things. And then all of a sudden, it was not okay anymore. But that's the whole point of it, is to go do the fact-finding. The other observation I think that's important is the public needs to understand that Robert Mueller is your representative in the justice system. He's not just kind of operating out there untethered from our democracy. It's your justice system under your Constitution. And Robert Mueller is your representative in the Justice Department, selected in a process that was meant to find someone who could approach it independently and in a nonpartisan way. And the Republicans are trying to take your representative, the people's representative in their justice system, in your justice system. They're trying to take him off the field. They're trying to sideline him. So when they go after Robert Mueller, they're going after the American justice system, and they're going after the American people. And the public needs to understand that, and that's why we need to let this man do his job for our justice system, for our democracy, for our people.
Thank you. Newest member of the Judiciary Committee.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. The time has been well spent, so I won't keep you much longer. I want to thank Representative Waters for her leadership on this issue and my colleagues as well. I've spent 27 years as a law enforcement officer. When I took the 2 oaths as a police officer and a chief of police, I took those oaths very, very seriously. I had an opportunity to meet Director Mueller in 2010 when I was a police chief. I never dreamed that I would be standing here as a member of Congress, standing next to a sign that says, "Protect Mueller." And if you look at his life and what he has done for this country, as reporters, and I've spent quite a bit of time with reporters as a police chief, probably more than I wish I would have. But you have to be overly curious about why would we need to protect Mueller for simply serving this country and doing his job. You know, I've been thinking about it a lot, and I think the reason is because the president just does not understand a person like Bob Mueller, a public servant who has dedicated his life to making this country better. You have to ask yourself, why would the president attack the institutions in this country, the law enforcement officer who walks the beat every day, the prosecutor or the judges who are in a courtroom every day, the Federal Bureau of Investigations? Why would a president attack his own Department of Justice? Bob Mueller is a man above reproach. He is a dedicated, as you've heard, veteran, and as opposed to going into the private sector making, I'm sure, a lot of money, he chose to be the director of the FBI. He does not deserve what is happening to him today. And I would just ask you,
to tell the story. I know that Director Mueller will only go where the evidence leads him. And we need to let him finish this investigation. And any person, as my colleague said, who remembers any member of Congress, Democrat or Republican, who remembers why we are here in the first place, remembers the oath that they took, will want him to finish the investigation. If they do not, the only question that's left is what do they have to hide and what are they afraid of? Thank you.
Wow, thank you. Thank you very much. That concludes our press conference for today. I was asked last night in an interview on MSNBC if, in fact, something happened, such as the firing of Special Counsel Mueller, and they called us back into Congress, would I be willing to come? I told them I'd catch the first plane smoking. I would be here with 1 minute's notice if I could get here. And these members who are standing here, these members who have signed on to this letter are all willing to do what we have to do to make sure that the Constitution works, that the Justice Department is respected, that the investigation is honored, and that Mueller is supported in what he's doing. So thank you all very much for being here today. Thank you all so very much. Thank you. I feel like we push it back.
Nice job. Very well put.